You squeeze a peach at the grocery store. It gives a little, so you buy it. 2 days later, it's still hard as a golf ball in one spot and mushy and brown in another, and you're eating it over the sink because half of it went bad before the other half ripened. That's not bad luck. That's not a bad batch. That's the wrong test. My grandmother picked peaches for 60 years off her own trees, and at every farm stand from here to the county line, and she never once squeezed one. Not once. She'd pick one up, hold it under her nose for about 2 seconds, sometimes turn it over once in her hand, and put it back or put it in the bag. She was right almost every single time. I used to think it was some kind of gift, like she just had a nose for it. It's not a gift. It's a method, and it's one most people watching this have never been taught, because the squeeze test everyone uses is actually the thing that's ruining your peaches before you even get them home. Squeezing a peach bruises it. The flesh right under your thumb turns soft and brown within hours, whether the peach was ripe or not, which means the squeeze test doesn't even tell you what you think it tells you. You're not testing ripeness, you're damaging the fruit and calling the damage a result. So today I'm going to walk you through exactly what my grandmother taught me, the smell test, what to actually look for with your eyes, the one thing at the stem that tells you more than anything else, and what to do if you get home with peaches that aren't ready yet, because there's a fix for that too, and almost nobody knows it. I'm Linda, and if you've spent your life guessing your way through the produce section, by the end of this video you won't be guessing anymore. Before we get into it, if this is your first time here, welcome. I post a video like this every week, old ways of doing things that actually work, and if you hit subscribe now, you won't miss the next one. I've got apples coming up next month, and you're going to want to see that one. Now, a peach ripens from the inside out. That's the piece of information that changes everything else you're about to hear. The stone in the middle softens the fruit around it first, and the ripeness spreads outward toward the skin last. By the time the outside of a peach feels soft to a squeeze, the inside has often gone past ripe and started to break down. That's why a peach that felt perfect at the store turns to mush a day later. It wasn't ripening in your kitchen. It was already overripe on the inside when you bought it, and the outside just hadn't caught up yet. This is exactly why smell works so much better than touch. Ripeness releases aroma compounds through the skin well before the flesh gets soft enough to feel from the outside. Your nose is picking up on a chemical process that your fingers can't detect yet. My grandmother used to say, "A good peach announces itself before you even touch it," and she wasn't exaggerating. Hold a ripe peach 8 or 10 inches from your face, near the stem end specifically, and take a breath. A ripe peach smells sweet, floral, almost like peach candy before you've bitten into it. If you smell nothing, or if the smell is faint and green, that peach needs more time. If it smells like syrup or has a slightly fermented edge to it, you've waited too long and it's already turning. The stem end matters more than any other part of the fruit, and this is the part almost nobody checks. Look at the little indentation where the stem used to attach. On an unripe peach, that area is tight, greenish, sometimes even a bit hard around the edges. On a ripe peach, that spot has filled in and softened slightly, and the color there has shifted to a warm gold or cream, never green. Green at the stem, no matter how red or how large the rest of the peach looks, means it was picked too early and it will never develop full sweetness. It might soften up on your counter, but soft isn't the same as ripe. and a peach picked too green stays starchy and bland no matter how long you wait. Color across the whole peach tells you more than people give it credit for, but you have to know what you're reading. Red doesn't mean ripe. Red is mostly about variety and how much sun that side of the fruit got on the tree, and some of the reddest peaches in the bin are the least ripe ones in the whole pile. What you actually want to look at is the background color, the color underneath the red blush, in the spots where there's no red at all. That background should be a deep gold or warm cream. If the background color is greenish or pale yellow, put it back, no matter how much red is on the skin. Grandma used to grab a peach, turn it so she could see past the red patches to the true background color, and that told her more in 2 seconds than most people learn from squeezing 10 peaches. I want to pause here for a second and talk about something that trips a lot of people up once they get home. Even with all of this, sometimes you end up with peaches that need another day or two, and that's completely fine. There's a right way to finish that job. Before we get to that, though, I want to tell you about something separate from peaches entirely, because a lot of you watching this are the same people growing your own fruit trees, or trying to, and running into problems nobody explains well. Most people who give up on gardening didn't lack a green thumb. They just never got a straight answer. Why is the plant yellowing? Why did the cuttings die? Why does the vegetable patch produce nothing no matter how much time goes into it? The information is out there, but it's scattered, overcomplicated, and half of it contradicts the other half. That's exactly what Linda sat down to fix. Everything in this guide is written the way the channel runs: calm, practical, and genuinely beginner-friendly. Houseplant care, indoor growing, vegetables in small spaces, propagation from cuttings, composting, soil health, seasonal tips, the common problems most gardeners hit early on, and the simple fixes that actually work without expensive products or complicated routines. One read and you'll understand your plants better than you ever have. Link is in the description. Let's grow something. Now, back to your peaches. If you've got a few that need another day or two, put them in a single layer in a paper bag, folded loosely closed, and leave them on the counter out of direct sunlight. Never the fridge for this part. Cold temperatures stop the ripening process almost entirely and flatten the flavor permanently, even if you warm the peach back up afterward. The paper bag traps a gas called ethylene that the peach naturally gives off, and that gas speeds up ripening evenly, which is exactly what you want after the fruit is off the tree and can't ripen from the inside the way it would naturally. Adding a ripe banana or apple to that same bag speeds things up even further, since both of those release a good amount of ethylene too. Check the peaches once a day. You're looking for that same shift in background color and that same give when you press very gently near the stem. Not a full squeeze, just a light touch with 2 fingers. Once a peach is ripe, that's when the fridge finally becomes useful, not before. A ripe peach will hold in the refrigerator for 3 to 5 days, and pulling it out about 30 minutes before you plan to eat it brings the flavor and the texture most of the way back, since cold temperatures dull sweetness on your tongue the same way they dull it in the fruit itself. 2 more things worth checking while you're standing in front of the bin, and both of them get overlooked constantly. Size and shape matter, though less than smell and stem color. A peach that's slightly lopsided, a little uneven from one side to the other, often has more flavor than a perfectly round one. Perfectly symmetrical fruit in a grocery store is frequently bred and grown for uniform shipping, not for flavor, and the lopsided ones the store didn't bother sorting out are sometimes the tastiest in the pile. The fuzz tells its own story too, and almost nobody looks at it. A peach with thick, even fuzz across the whole surface is often picked a little earlier than one where the fuzz has started to rub thin in spots, especially near where the fruit touched a branch or another peach while it hung. That thinning isn't damage, it's a small sign of a longer time on the tree, which usually means more sugar had the chance to develop before it was picked. Now let's talk about the two kinds of peaches, because this trips people up constantly at the store, and nobody explains it. Freestone peaches have a pit that separates cleanly from the flesh, and clingstone peaches have a pit that holds on tight no matter how you cut around it. Clingstones tend to show up earlier in the season and are usually smaller and firmer, while freestones dominate the later part of summer and are typically the sweeter, juicier ones people picture when they think of a perfect peach. If you're buying in June and struggling to find that classic drippy sweet peach, that's not you doing anything wrong. It's often just too early in the season for freestones in your area. Wait a few weeks and try again. A quick way to tell which one you've got before you even cut into it, since the label at the store often doesn't say, clingstones tend to have a slightly firmer feel overall, even when fully ripe, and the skin near the stem sits a little tighter to the flesh underneath. Freestones, once ripe, feel a bit more yielding across the whole fruit, not just at one spot. It's a small difference, but once you've cut open a few of each and compared, you'll start recognizing it in the bin before you even get to the register. White peaches deserve a separate mention too, because the color rules change slightly. White peaches have naturally low acidity, which means they taste sweeter even when they're not fully ripe, and that can trick people into thinking they've found a perfect peach when it's actually still underripe. With white varieties, lean even more heavily on the smell test, since the sweetness on your tongue will lie to you before the aroma does. A mistake I see constantly, and one I made myself for years before Grandma corrected me, is buying peaches by the bag instead of individually. Pre-bagged peaches at the store are almost always picked and packed at the same stage, all at once, which means you're locked into whatever ripeness that whole batch happens to be. Buying loose, one at a time, lets you pick a mix, some ready today, some that need 2 more days on the counter, so you're not stuck eating 6 peaches in one afternoon before they all turn at once. There's also a real difference between grocery store peaches and farmers market peaches, and it comes down to timing more than quality. Grocery store peaches are usually picked before full ripeness on purpose, because they need to survive shipping and sitting on a shelf for several days without bruising. That's not the store cutting corners, it's just the reality of how far most produce travels. Farmers market peaches, especially from a grower selling what came off the tree that morning or the day before, are far more likely to already be at or close to the point Grandma's tests are looking for. If you have a market near you during peach season, that's genuinely the easier path to a perfect peach. Less guessing, less waiting on the counter afterward. Peak season matters more than people think, too. Depending on where you live, peaches usually run from late May through September, with the real sweet spot for flavor landing in July and August in most regions. Buying peaches in April or in October, outside that window, usually means fruit that traveled a long way and was picked far earlier than anyone would like, no matter how good your smell test technique is. The best peach you'll ever pick is still limited by when and where it grew. If you end up with more ripe peaches than you can eat in time, freezing works better than most people expect. Slice them, toss the slices in a small amount of lemon juice so they don't brown. Lay them flat on a tray so they freeze individually instead of clumping into one solid block, and then transfer them to a bag once they're solid. Frozen this way, they hold their flavor for close to a year and work perfectly in baking or smoothies, even if the texture isn't quite right for eating straight out of the freezer. People throw out good peaches over this all the time, so it's worth knowing the difference between one that's very ripe and one that's actually gone bad. A very ripe peach has soft flesh throughout, a strong, sweet smell, and skin that gives easily under gentle pressure everywhere, not just in one spot. That peach is perfect for eating right now or for baking. A peach that's actually spoiled has soft, sunken patches that look wrinkled rather than plump, a smell that's turned sour or alcohol-like instead of sweet, and often a small amount of visible mold, usually gray or white and fuzzy, near the stem or anywhere the skin broke. One soft spot from a bump in transit doesn't mean the whole peach is bad. Just cut around it. But a sour smell means the whole thing goes in the compost, not on your plate. Canning is the other option if you're working with a real abundance, say from a tree in your yard or a big farmer's market haul, and you want that peach flavor to last well past the season. That's a longer process than I can cover properly in the time we've got left today. Boiling water bath, sterilized jars, the whole routine. But if enough of you ask for it in the comments, that's an easy video for me to put together next. One last thing my grandmother always did, and I do it every single time now too. She'd smell a peach before she even looked at it, not after picking it up to check the color, before. She said your eyes will talk you into things your nose won't fall for, and 40 years of buying produce with her taught me she was right about that more often than she was wrong. So here's what you're doing differently starting today. Smell first, close to the stem end. Check the background color underneath the red, not the red itself. Look at that stem indentation for green versus gold. Skip the squeeze entirely. And if you get home with peaches that need a little more time, a paper bag on the counter, not the fridge, does the job right. If this changed how you're going to shop for peaches, do me a favor and hit that like button. It really does help this video find the people who need it. Tell me in the comments what fruit you want me to cover next. I read every single one, and a lot of what I film comes straight from those suggestions. And if you want more of these old, tested methods that actually work, subscribe and turn on notifications so you catch the next one. I'm Linda. Go pick yourself a good peach, and I'll see you next time.